There is a family in India today that possesses every advantage of modern wealth and influence, yet they live in a state of absolute paralysis. Despite their resources, they are caught in a cycle of grief that they have no power to stop. To find the source of this paralysis, we have to look back 200 years. The history of this family's nightmare is rooted in the era of British India. The bloodline begins with great-grandfather Rashid. In his village, he was a man defined by local authority and a relentless focus on his legacy. He controlled vast resources. The British government had granted him 20 acres of fertile land, which he used to build an opulent estate and a massive agricultural operation, complete with his own private pond. But his material success was overshadowed by a desperate need for a male heir. This specific, unyielding obsession created the vulnerability that would eventually lead to the destruction of his descendants. After his first wife gave birth to 5 daughters, Rashid decided to secure his legacy through betrayal. He secretly married a second woman named Zara, hoping she would provide the son he felt he was owed. When his first wife discovered she had been replaced solely for her perceived failure to produce a boy, the shock destroyed her. She found herself discarded by the man she had built a life with. In her final moments of despair, the first wife took her own life. But before she died, she delivered a final curse. Because she was discarded for being a woman, no daughter born to Rashid's name would ever know a moment of peace. With her death, the first wife's rage became a baseline condition for the family. Any girl born into this lineage was now born into a debt she did not sign for. For a time, it seemed the family had escaped. Zara gave birth to a son, Rashid got his heir, and the memory of the first wife's words began to fade. Then the 1920 influenza pandemic arrived. In a single week, 4 of Rashid's daughters were killed by the virus. Family records describe Rashid returning from one daughter's funeral only to find the next dead inside. Shortly after, the last surviving daughter of the first wife's lineage died as well, leaving Rashid with only the children of his second marriage. By the time the pandemic passed, Rashid's original family was gone. The pattern of deaths followed the specific terms of the curse, using a global health crisis to target his daughters with surgical precision. As the decades passed, the threat shifted from physical illness to psychological terror. Sarah, a member of the second generation, was alone at the estate when she heard her father's voice screaming for help from the dark pond. She ran to the water, but the pond was empty. Instead, she felt the presence of a woman watching her from the shadows. From that night on, Sarah was followed by a figure that only she could see. Sarah began to lose control of her own body. She tore at her hair and ripped her clothes with her teeth. Eventually, she began vomiting blood, mixed with the fabric she had consumed. Despite the family's attempts to bind her for her own protection, Sarah was found dead. Her body was floating in the same pond where she first heard the phantom screams. Sarah's death showed that the entity was no longer waiting for external circumstances to strike. It was now capable of dismantling a victim's mind before taking their life. The pattern took a transactional turn with a young girl named Lena. Her mother, Maroon, began having this same nightmare every night. In the dream, a woman offered a box filled with gold and jewels. The price for this treasure was simple. She wanted Lena's pinky finger. Lena soon died after her body turned cold and pale, as if drained of all blood. On her hand, her family found a deep black scratch on the exact finger the woman in the dream had demanded. Immediately following the funeral, the family experienced an unexplained and massive surge in their financial wealth. This wealth served as a grim confirmation. The family's continued prosperity was being paid for, quite literally, with the lives of their daughters. Today, Ayan and his cousins remain at the ancestral home. People often ask why they don't simply abandon the property and start over elsewhere. Every time they attempt to sell the estate, they are met with sudden financial ruin. They have watched entire crops, their primary source of income, mysteriously turning to ash overnight just as a sale was being finalized. The entity makes its presence felt within the house. Ayan has described lying in bed and feeling the physical weight of heavy footsteps walking across his chest in the dark. He has experienced a shadowy figure leaning down over him, breathing directly into his face while he lies unable to move. The estate acts as a predatory financial anchor. It monitors their decisions and reacts with immediate poverty the moment they try to break away from the land. The focus of this cycle has now turned to Rabia, the youngest sister. She is currently wasting away, losing her hair and suffering from a depression that no medical professional can explain. She has recently begun reporting sightings of the same shadowy woman who haunted Sarah decades earlier. This has left the family in a state of constant dread. They are currently waiting for the birth of a new cousin, knowing that if the child is a girl, the cycle will simply begin again. The entity follows the blood, not just the property. This debt is anchored in their lineage, making every new daughter a target from the moment of conception.